But the outlook is still bleak on the weapons front for Kyiv. Stockpiles are thinning fast and Europe can't replenish them on time. The United States deliveries have also remained frozen. Production lines across the continent are running at full tilt, but officials admit they're still months away from meeting Ukraine's battlefield needs. August Hackinson reports.
It's far from Europe's proudest moment. According to the independent research institute and think tank Kiel Institute, European nations are no longer able to make up for the US aid to Ukraine, halted at the start of the year.
While annual allocations averaged roughly €41.6 billion in 2022 to 2024, including Europe, the United States and other donors, only €32.5 billion has been allocated so far in 2025. To reach previous levels, an additional €9.1 billion would be needed to be allocated by year end, requiring a monthly allocation rate more than twice as high as in recent months.
While overall support is falling, the trend varies sharply across Europe. France, Germany and the UK have doubled, even tripled their contributions this year. Italy, meanwhile, has cut its support by 15% compared to the 2022 to 2024 average. Spain has stopped its military aid altogether. The European Commission now wants to tap roughly €200 billion in Russian assets frozen inside the EU to finance a major loan package for Ukraine. The goal is to release an initial €90 billion at a summit on December 18th in Brussels. But the plan faces resistance, especially from Belgium, which warns it could provoke retaliation from Moscow.
We now have the opportunity to discuss the state of play with Ukrainian Member of Parliament Lisa Yasko. Lisa is a member of Volodymyr Zelensky's party, Servant of the People. Thanks so much for joining us here on France 24. You have been on the show before, Lisa, and recently you've been heavily critical of Donald Trump and trying to at least manufacture this 20-point peace plan. In terms of what Zelensky is taking to Washington today, what are the non-negotiables?
You know, it's not only about being critical. This is very existential position for Ukrainians. We cannot surrender. We cannot forget who aggressor is. We cannot pretend that aggressor suddenly became non-aggressor. And everything that Trump is saying now and his team is actually trying to press us to acknowledge that maybe actually Putin is not a war criminal. No one in Ukraine will sign that. No one will agree that injustice that happened to our people suddenly became normal. It's not going to happen. And every day we hear more and more statements from Russia, actually. Then, unfortunately, Americans are also repeating some of these statements that to us sound very pro-Russian. We don't understand why. And this is very painful to us.
As one of those statements, Donald Trump calling for elections, and is that why your leader has now decided to change the tune so dramatically yesterday?
Well, in fact, after Trump said that Zelensky is holding power and is not holding elections, Zelensky said very honestly, okay, let's be very honest. I'm ready to have elections if someone is going to guarantee me security. Whether international observers would be able to come, whether we'll be able to provide the votes that they will be protected and that Russia will not be shelling. What about the veterans? What about the people who are in occupied territories? What about people who are under the attack every day? What about people abroad? We don't know exact numbers, but there are millions of displaced people inside Ukraine and millions of people abroad. Can we, after that, call, if we have elections very soon, these elections as democratic? Will you recognize that as international partners? There are many questions that come with that, and it takes very responsible position.
Well, I don't suppose you're on that member of the litigation panel, which is trying to make sure that these elections can take place under martial law. It sounds like an almost impossible task. And in fact, critics will point to the fact that it is impossible. So it is just posturing from Zelensky and almost to show the United States president that it really can't be done, even though Kyiv is willing to come to the table?
We can have elections if it's something that will help to end war. There is no problem with that. But we also need to make sure why, and we have to be very honest, why someone is pressing us to the topic of elections when every day people are dying from the Russian attacks. This is insanity. This is absolute inhuman position, actually, to talk about elections. Don't forget that also elections take money and finances and budgets. And for us, every day we spend so much for defense and for energy recovery. You know how many hours of electricity we currently have in Kiev? 2 or 3 hours of electricity per day. This is our life now. How are we going to have elections? How the people will be counting the votes without light? I'm not joking. This is very simple things. But if we have more drones coming, more missiles coming, this is not going to help us. And what will happen to Ukrainian society? Ukrainian society will just say that this is crazy. People are dying. Why are we talking politics now?
But then why would Zelensky make those comments?
Because Zelensky is a very honest person. And he said, like, don't accuse me. I'm ready. The power was never my goal. I can leave that and go to elections. But I believe that the question of ending the war and current negotiations is #1 priority.
You recently said in American media you would love to bring Donald Trump to the front lines to actually see what is happening there, and then it might change his position. What would he see if he came there with you?
You know, in fact, this is not only about the front line. It is enough to come to Kyiv or to some places, cities, and just look at the buildings, look at how people look, to talk to people in hospitals. You will see a lot of wounded people who lost parts of their body, who lost relatives, and it happens every week. A friend of my father recently, 2 days ago, lost his son. And this is reality we live in. Every day, someone calls me or someone else and says that the friend or relative is no longer alive. Or we see that someone lost the house, that the house is no longer, even there are no pieces of house available just because the ballistic or drone reached that area. So I think after you see the reality and you see that people are still fighting and are resilient, are not giving up, this is something that Donald Trump actually finally, hopefully, can start respecting. Because I believe that he's a man who likes strong people, but he doesn't fully understand Ukrainians. He believes that this is he believes Russian narratives and he believes in economic terms, but this is not about economy, this is about human lives.
How can you convince him, though? Because he continues to push this idea that Ukraine doesn't hold any cards, and he's recently, again, expressed his displeasure at Zelensky for not having even read the peace agreement. How do you go and convince a transactional president like that at this stage, given the state of the nation?
I have very maybe naive answer, but very honest answer. I still believe in people's hearts, and especially in the world of politics, there is so much dishonesty.
You believe in Donald Trump's heart?
I believe that there could be things that can touch his heart if he goes out of his bubble, but I don't think he will, because for him, being in that bubble, this is his life now. He wants to have that victory for internal audience, and also he wants to be good to Russians. And this is a big problem because he believes that the trade is possible with aggressor. And unfortunately, the history will show him that he was wrong.
And this is also as that national security strategy has just been released by the United States, which paints Europe as weak and actually shows that closer ties with Moscow are very much within Washington's remit. So where do you go from here, knowing that the United States actually wants to get closer to Moscow as a precondition?
Situation in the United States is very complex and very hard, because this is not only about Trump convictions, this is also convictions within certain surrounding around him that believe that they shouldn't be spreading the so-called Western American values of democracy around the world. They shouldn't support any civil society organizations around the globe that promote peace and democracy. They should focus on completely different things, on economy, on prosperity, on money, on making deals. And this is something that scares me, but in the same time, I see that this is a trend that is in a way, like, you just cannot avoid. It will happen. This is an organic process. But I think that the political leadership from other politicians in United States, in other countries should come up, and we should just continue fighting for our values and our position.
But is Europe doing enough to push those values and stand alone and really help Ukraine? Are you convinced by the coalition of the willing?
If there is anything I'm optimistic about, that is about Europe. I'm not saying that Europe is at the strongest position now. No, but I know that there is a huge shift that Europe managed to cross from a moment 2, 3, 4 years ago to where Europe now in terms of awareness for what kind of actions are needed for defense, for cooperation, for protecting democracies inside the countries. And I know it changed a lot. The problem is that Europe was always thinking that United States will be on board, and now because strategic partner may not be on board anymore, this makes Europe to rethink own worth, value, narrative, idea, and I believe that it will happen in the future. But just hopefully that there will be enough wisdom to protect democracy from the inside and not to allow populists and those who actually are supported by Russia. Russia is never sleeping. Russia is always supporting weaknesses in different countries. We shouldn't allow them to win in France, in Germany, or in other country. We should always take care of our freedoms.
Lisa Yasko, unfortunately, that is where we have to end it here. As always, thank you for just providing your thoughts and analysis here on France 24. Lisa Yasko, a member of the Servant of the People party, that is, of course, Volodymyr Zelensky's party, with the tensions continuing to rise on the front lines.